يوم بيحكولي صبر سلاحي واخر صبر الموت. والكل شايف بس لا مش فارق، صوتي حياة وانا واقف وحدي، العالم ضدي وانا مخشى. سلبوني روحي مفتاح البيت في قلبي، وانا راجع وبايدي ولدي. ولو كل العالم كان ضدي انا راجع يا بلادي راجع.
Dr. Azzam Tamimi, British Palestinian academic and political activist, currently the chairman of Al Hiwar TV channel and its editor-in-chief. One of his latest pieces is called The Gaza Ceasefire, How Israel's Colossal Failure Could Reshape the Global Order. And it's so remarkable speaking to Dr. Azzam on camera today. 1 year ago, he was with us in person here in South Africa. Dr. Azzam, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, and thank you for holding on so far.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Dr. Azzam, to dive straight into it, we know when we talk about what this year has achieved for the Palestinian cause, lots of sacrifice, lots of pain, but on the other hand, dramatic shifts have occurred all over the planet. With the ceasefire, or whatever the nature of the ceasefire is, how do we ensure in the coming phase that these shifts that have occurred are preserved and built upon?
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Well, we simply have to keep struggling. There is no end to this. So long as the Zionist project is unfolding in Palestine, there will not be peace in this region. And we've just seen what the Israelis have done in Lebanon, killing 20 people today who were trying to go back to their homes, preventing the Palestinians from returning to the north, reneging on the terms of the deal they themselves signed. So you see, these Zionists will keep creating problems for everybody in the region. And as the struggle continues, hopefully the world's perception of what Israel is, what Zionism is about, will become closer to the truth. And this is what we hope to achieve.
You know, people would still say, though, Doctor, because they possibly have been doing this for so long, I've been posting on social media, I've been attending this protest, or I've been doing X, Y, and Z. And now for this matter to reach conclusion, or for greater accountability to be extracted, they really, you know, sometimes call out for, people look for something bigger to do or something new to do, or should we shift from this strategy to another strategy? What are the demands and what are the practical steps that we could do different, or the small tweaks that could be made 1 year on amidst the new set of circumstances that we face?
I think it's only normal that a small minority of people will maintain the same level of activism throughout. The majority of people will become enthusiastic and actively involved when there are crises, when there is a flare-up here or there. I think it's the minority of committed activists who have the responsibility to continue to remind people of how grave this cause is and how important it is, not just for the Palestinians, but actually for humanity. Because when we talk about Zionism, it is the other side of the same coin that apartheid in South Africa had. This is an evil thing. It's like the Nazis before, the fascists. And therefore, their threat extends to the entire world. They use all sorts of tricks of deception, of illegal acts against their opponents, whether small or big. And therefore Zionism is a threat to humanity. And the people who are committed to this cause, who shoulder the responsibility of continuing to remind the world of this fact.
There's been this outpouring of reaction to the scenes that we saw last week, Doctor, as well as this previous week, the restoration of civil governance capacity to whatever extent it's possible, but it's quite tangible from Hamas in the Gaza Strip, and then the show by the Al-Qassam brigades and Saraya al-Quds. But as people watch that, you would still find a kind of holding back by people who would still support the Palestinian cause, but be very reluctant to say that this would be the future. And these are the legitimate representatives of the Palestinian people. So how do we ensure that people who support the Palestinian cause also don't only support the victimhood narrative, but are willing to support the resistance? And what exactly does it mean to support the resistance?
Well, this issue is not about Hamas. This issue is about justice in Palestine. It is about standing up to oppose a form of colonialism that is really one of the most brutal forms of colonialism in modern history. If people are motivated in their positions or in their actions by a certain dislike to this group or that group, that is really a distraction. Just forget about groups. Remember what this cause is about. It's about supporting the victims of one of the most brutal colonial projects in modern history.
There's a lot of discussion as well, Doctor, about the ceasefire as it goes through the snags that you described earlier. But people are also keeping their eyes on Lebanon. People are also keeping their eyes on Syria. People are keeping their eyes on the United States of America. I want to ask you here about the piece that you wrote that I referred to just a bit ago, where you said how Israel's colossal failure could reshape the global order. People have spoken about this being the moment of the decline of Zionism. People have spoken about the serious reputational damage and damage to the integrity or whatever remained of it of the United States of America. And yet you see, in terms of the pompousness of Donald Trump and the kind of projects that he still seems to be propounding on a grandiose scale for the Middle East, there doesn't seem to be any kind of cutback or slackening of pace. How do you explain that if we are seeing the global order being reshaped?
Well, I'm really inspired by the young men and women on campuses across America and Europe who are now questioning the values upon which this world order has been set up. Not only the values, the mechanisms as well, and the hypocrisy that they have discovered in this world order. And the credit for all of this goes to Gaza, really. The bombardment of Gaza, the genocide inside Gaza, the steadfastness and the resilience of the people of Gaza opened the eyes of this new generation around the world. And the members of this new generation will soon be the leaders in their countries. Trump would have been long gone, and so all the other Zionists in America, in Britain, in France, in Germany, and elsewhere in the world who unconditionally support the crimes perpetrated by the Israelis against the Palestinians. And the members of the new generation who will soon be in charge of administrating the affairs of those nations will hopefully do justice to Palestine and the Palestinians, just like happened in the case of apartheid in South Africa. I still remember how in the 70s and the 80s, governments in the Western world were supporting the apartheid authorities in South Africa. But then, as the anti-apartheid global movement was growing, world stances, world positions started changing, from considering Nelson Mandela to be a terrorist to considering him to be the champion of humanity. This is happening, and this is happening today because of Gaza.
Lastly, for you, Doctor, before we let you go, there is increased focus on the West Bank. We've got these statements from Trump here talking about the absorption of Palestinians into Jordan, into Egypt as well. Just how dire, is this just a temporary measure of appeasement for the Israeli public in the wake of the Gaza ceasefire, or do you feel there's a willingness by Israel to go all the way in the West Bank, and do we expect a very strong pushback? Does the resistance in the West Bank have that capacity to give that pushback to the Israelis in the wake of these plans, if they are so serious?
We are not sure yet whether this is a plan or just some whimsical remarks on the part of Trump, who is, of course, a real estate agent and is influenced by his business interests. However, Trump needs to be reminded that Rabin one day said, the former Israeli prime minister, once when he was, I think, the defense minister of Israel, or probably when he became even prime minister, he said he wished one day, I think it was when he was a defense minister during the first Intifada of 1987, that he said he wished to wake up one day and be told that Gaza was swollen by the sea. Now Rabin is gone and Gaza is still there. Trump will be gone and Gaza will still be there. This is not the first time the Zionists, whether in Israel or outside the region, talk of the depopulation of Palestine, talk about transfer, talk about the alternative solution, talk about all sorts of things. And so long as the Palestinians are determined to remain in their land, and so long as there are people around the world who support truth and justice, all these plans will prove to be utter failure.
Doctor, thank you for sticking around with us. Again, very pointed, valuable input. And particularly just taking a cue from what you said about the responsibility of whether it be a small cohort of activists, but just to always keep the struggle alive and use every opportunity to, just reawaken the cause.